The first day of the free practice session for the 2025 Formula One Japanese Grand Prix concludes with the best time set by Oscar Piastri in 1 minute 28.114 seconds. The first session went smoothly without any interruptions, with Lando Norris ahead of the Mercedes W16 of George Russell and the two Ferrari SF-25 cars of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, who were 4 and 5 tenths behind the McLaren driver's best lap time of the day. Following them were the two Red Bull RB21 cars of Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda, with the Japanese driver making his debut with the Milton Keynes team at his home circuit. As it turned out, the first free practice session in Japan was the only opportunity for long runs on Friday. Ferrari arrives at the 5.807-kilometer Suzuka Circuit without any major aerodynamic updates, despite the previously reported news regarding a possible floor update, but the Maranello team has worked intensely on the simulator and now wants to test the configurations studied for this weekend. In the first run, on medium tires, both cars showed good baseline balance with solid performance in the first sector, although slightly delayed in direction changes compared to the McLaren MCL39 cars. In the second sector, the gap increases, especially at turn 11, where the SF-25 single-seater struggles to close the line properly due to slight understeer. The cars are also not perfectly set up in turns 13 and 14, but they recover in the final sector thanks to a lower aerodynamic load compared to McLaren. Returning to the track with soft tires, both cars maintain the same behavior, with Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc attempting to correct the understeer through front-wing adjustments, although optimal tire activation remains uncertain. In the final phase of the first free practice session, the Maranello team focuses on race simulations with full fuel tanks. The times remain constant without evident tire degradation, but understeer continues to hinder the 7-time Formula One world champion, who at this stage seems to be struggling more than his Maranello teammate. The Italian side works on brake balance and differential settings in order to improve rotation, while the Briton suffers from rear-end sliding. In the end, Charles Leclerc slows down while Lewis Hamilton improves his pace, indicating different strategies in terms of tire management. The SF-25 proves competitive, but more work is needed to reduce understeer and maximize the car's potential. On the other hand, the second free practice session for the Japanese GP was largely insignificant, as the session was interrupted 4 times by red flags. The drivers were only able to complete a few laps between stoppages, so some did not even manage a qualifying attempt, and no one could try a long run. FP2 starts with a serious crash caused by Jack Doohan. The Alpine driver, at the beginning of the 5th lap of his first run, violently hit the barriers at turn 1 at a very high speed while fully throttling. It is likely, though unverified, that the drag reduction system did not close, and anyone familiar with Suzuka knows that this can mean becoming a passenger in the car. After a visit to the medical center and visibly shaken, the Australian returned to the pits. Ahead of the session resuming at 15:30 local time, meaning that just 30 minutes were left on the clock. A queue of cars had formed in the pit lane, all keen to get more mileage in after losing nearly 20 minutes from their programs. This led to a mixture of run plans, with the likes of Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll already bolting on the Pirelli soft tires, while others stuck with the hard or medium compound. In a session marked by 3 more interruptions, one due to a rookie mistake by Fernando Alonso, the other 2 because the grass caught fire from sparks, Oscar Piastri set the fastest time ahead of Lando Norris, who was just 49 thousandths behind. Both McLaren drivers have already gone under the pole position time from last year by a tenth, and are once again favorite heading into the qualifying session on Saturday, as they seem to be racing in a league of their own. In third place was a surprising Isaac Hadjar, with the Racing Bulls proving to be very competitive at least in terms of qualifying performance, as shown by the 6th fastest time from a revived Liam Lawson following his demotion from Red Bull after just 2 race weekends. It is also worth pointing out that Lewis Hamilton felt more comfortable than his Maranello teammate in this second free practice session at the Suzuka Circuit. Both Ferrari SF-25 cars took to the track at the start of FP2 on Pirelli hard tires to assess setup changes and reduce understeer. After the warm-up lap, they switched to push mode. Lewis Hamilton lifted off in the first sector, while Charles Leclerc completed the lap, showing difficulties at turn 11 with a mark left on the asphalt. In the next lap, the 7-time Formula One world champion improved thanks to optimal tire temperatures, while the Monegasque struggled in turns 1, 4, and had to manage the risk of tire overheating. Charles Leclerc was improving on his next attempt, but the red flag caused by Jack Doohan interrupted his lap. Turn 11 proved to be critical. Braking with a certain steering angle and a banking that pushes towards the outside made it difficult to hit the apex, even for McLaren. After a 15-minute stop, they restarted with hard tires. The British driver made another mistake, again at turn 11, clearly a critical point for the SF-25 car, suffering from understeer on entry and too much rotation on exit. Charles Leclerc was cleaner but slower, blocked by traffic at Spoon. Fernando Alonso's interruption further hindered the possibility of collecting relevant data in the second free practice session for the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix. After the restart on soft tires, Ferrari's issues persisted, especially at the slow hairpin in the middle sector, where Lewis Hamilton adjusted his entry, while Charles Leclerc was more precise but slower. The Briton also needed to improve at turn 1, where he did not fully close the line. Despite everything, he was quicker than his Ferrari teammate, who still seemed to struggle with the SF-25. To cool the tires and optimize tire management, both drivers completed 2 cool-down laps before finishing the session. 2 more stoppages were caused by sudden fires, ignited by the wind in the grass near the trackside. But that wasn't the only issue for Charles Leclerc, as he faced difficulties managing his SF-25 single-seater and was almost unable to push it to the limit, coming close to losing control a couple of times. Near the end of the session, the Monegasque driver expressed his frustration over the radio, with a message that seemed to perfectly reflect the situation, saying that the session was a nightmare. His brief words appeared to capture the struggles he was enduring during FP2 at the Suzuka Circuit. The teams therefore were not able to collect as much data as they would have liked to, and the hour was practically wasted apart from a few qualifying runs. Charles Leclerc completed the most laps, 14, which is clearly not a lot. The Ferrari duo of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc finished 4th and 7th fastest, but more importantly, the Maranello team, as well as its rivals, have little data to look at, so it will be difficult to fine-tune the setup and figure out the optimal tire operating window. That does make things more exciting for us, though. Near the end of the session, the Monegasque driver expressed his frustration over the radio, with a message that seemed to perfectly reflect the situation, saying that the session was a nightmare. His brief words appeared to capture the struggles he was enduring during FP2 at the Suzuka Circuit. With Friday's running now complete, the drivers and teams will look over their little data collected today before returning to the Suzuka Circuit for the third and final practice session on Saturday at 11:30 local time, ahead of the qualifying session, which is set to take place later in the afternoon.